We'll now have the last panel of this morning. It's about the future of social media management. We decided to hear from platform providers and to hear from them how they see the evolution of how brands manage on social media and use their products to be more active, to be more effective. And to make sure it won't be product pitches, we have Gregory Pouy, who's a French blogger about social media and marketing, will be the moderator of this session. Gregory Pouy is now founder of LaMercatique, and he will introduce himself, all the panelists. So Gregory Pouy and all the panelists, you can join me on stage for this last panel of today, of this morning.
So, Amy, Maya, and Jeffrey. So we are here to talk about social media platforms, and I'm very happy to moderate this panel for two main reasons. Because first one is that the social media landscape has been more and more complicated, and brands are spending more and more money. So platforms are very useful for them, and you will explain that, I suppose, during the whole panel. But also, French brands, they are not using so many, or so much, sorry, social media platforms. They used to work with agencies. And so the first question will be, and I'm sorry, Jeffrey, I will begin with, with women, but first question may be for you, Amy, for you, Maya, sorry. What is Wildfire? What are you doing, and what are the brands you're working with?
Hello, everybody. My name is Maya Grinberg, and I'm the chief evangelist at Wildfire. Wildfire is a social media marketing software company, and we were acquired by Google this past August, so we're very new Googlers. And what we do is we actually have a platform that contains an entire suite of tools that marketers use to grow, engage, and monetize their social presences. So for example, brands that we work with, close to home for you guys, Vente Privée, we work with Allianz, Puma, we work with Virgin Atlantic, and we work with a lot of agencies as well to address the agency question. And they use our software to really easily create and deploy social media friendly solutions, campaigns, promotions, advertising, and they use an analytics foundation to understand how they're performing at every step of the way.
Thanks. So you, Wildfire, are already in Paris, and you, Maya, from HearSay, you are coming to Paris, as I understand. Can you just explain what you are doing exactly and which brand you are working with also?
Sure. My name is Amy Millard. I run marketing for HearSay Social. I'm actually delighted to be here because Maya and I have worked together in the past. So HearSay Social provides an enterprise software platform that enables companies to do social sales, marketing, and compliance. So we create thousands of touch points at a company and enable them to safely engage in with their customers. So, for example, customers of ours in Europe are Zurich Financial, where thousands of insurance agents are on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, as well as AXA, which I think is known a little bit here in Paris. And global companies that we work with include JP Morgan, Chase, and Goldman Sachs.
And you, Jeffrey, well, Exacttarget is kind of different because you first focus on email, as far as I understand. So can you just explain a bit what Exacttarget is about?
Sure.
And the clients you're working with.
Sure. Honored to be here. We come at it a little bit differently. As you said, we started out as principally an email platform. A couple of years ago, we acquired a company by the name of CodeTweet, which has formed the foundation of our Social Engage product. And if you think about what we do, we really touch all of the different one-to-one messaging channels that consumers can engage with brands and vice versa. So email, mobile, and social. Our Social Engage product is really that chance for brands to listen and engage with consumers, and then we have a social pages product for more campaign-based promotional types of messaging. Clients include JetBlue, Citibank, REI, and again, companies from the small to the large enterprise, where you might have a situation where you have hundreds or thousands of people actually touching and communicating with consumers through social media, and you need kind of that command and control to keep it under control. Right.
So the main question, I think, for brands is about engagement. So how do you engage with consumers? How do you make them love you? And it's a lot about content, and I think we have had a lot of speeches about content here, but it's also about management platform, because you can definitely help brands to handle this fragmentation word, basically. So maybe can you explain a bit what you feel about that, how a platform as you guys can help brands to handle that?
Yeah, sure. So social media, as you mentioned, is all about content, and it's much more about engagement. So those two really have to be married, basically. And the other thing about social media is that it's very much a 24/7, 365 business, and it's this environment where your brand needs to be active pretty much at all times. So it's really not enough anymore to only consider as a brand one big campaign a quarter or one big campaign a month, because your consumers are still there Monday through Friday waiting to hear from you. And if they don't hear from you, they forget and they pull back, and they might start seeing your brand less and less and become less engaged. So the tools that you need to kind of foster and facilitate engagement over time are the ones that allow you to be more efficient, that kind of streamline the resources that it takes for you to put together so much content all the time. Tools like platforms. And the reason we're here to talk to you about platforms today is to kind of go through the merits of the platform, where it makes your life easier, and how you use content, how you send content to all of the regions of the world where your brand is involved. How do you change the language? How do you localize it and make it relevant to whatever cultures you're targeting or wherever your customers are? How do you launch things quickly without having to take months to have a creative agency put something together, only to find out you need to change it in 10 days and you don't have enough time? So platforms are the kind of software that allows you to scale your social media marketing.
And you, Amy, how do you make sure that your platform is up to date with all the social media platform? Because, I mean, for example, Facebook is changing almost every day. It's changing all the time. So how do you make sure, because it's always a problem for brands, maybe sometimes they've got an application and it doesn't fit with the new format of Facebook, or all these kind of things which are changing a lot?
Well, the truth is that Facebook changes every 15 minutes. They ship code every 15 minutes. And one of the ways that we respond to that is that we ship code 4 times a day. But that's sort of a technical answer. The real answer is that our social platform is architected for change. So the software, to be successful in this space, has to assume that an application that didn't exist a year ago, like Pinterest, will. And you can't go out of business because new social applications come along. In fact, you have to design your software to in advance work with a lot of change. So that's the first thing. And the comment I would make around engagement is that the real value of engagement on social platforms, it is not a good in and of itself. And I think that that's a really important thing to think about, that when a lot of people enter into social media, they start to count the number of fans, and they start to say, well, I have 10,000, I have 30,000. And in marketing, that's like counting database entries. It's not real. What is real is when a consumer that in a target demographic for you responds over time. And that's the exact, you would value that as a business if that were to happen in a store, if that were to happen via a phone or via email. So companies need to not change the rules when they move onto social media. If you value engagement with your customer offline, then you should measure engagement the same way online on social platforms.
Thanks. And Jeffrey, about you and Exacttarget, as you're coming from the email world, I'm sure you have very specific things that you can brought to brands also.
Sure. I think one of the key things is not to forget that email is kind of a foundational layer of social media. We're releasing our first subscribers, fans, and followers report in France today. It's a series we've been doing in the US, UK, Australia, in which we take a look at the native population, the local population, and what percentage of the online French population engages with brands through email, Facebook, and Twitter. And about 90% of French online citizens engage through email, in the 40s with Facebook, and in the low single digits on Twitter. So as you look at that, you realize email has to be a foundational element. In fact, this year, I'm right now working on a draft of a blog post that, if you reflect on 2012, it's the year that actually the social media channels themselves came back to email. So if the folks in the room just reflect on their own inbox, how many of us have gotten emails from Facebook seeking re-engagement? Twitter completely relaunched its email program to draw people back in. LinkedIn did the same. I'm getting LinkedIn endorsements now. I don't know when that started. All of a sudden, people are endorsing you. And so that email piece is, I think, critical, because you do need a through line in all of these ways you engage with consumers. And our view is that each of these is a channel that the consumer can dictate is important to them and is the one that they want to engage with your brand. And so if they're all disparate, if they all sit in different systems and don't communicate with the same database, you think you've got 3 consumers when you've really got 1. And so our view is, as it evolves, you need to bring it into a single view of the consumer so that a conversation that happens in social media could have a positive net effect in your subsequent conversations on email or Facebook or whatever you have.
Thanks. So if I summarize well, because as I said at the beginning, brands are not working so much with engagement platform or management platforms. So first is for gaining time, because I mean, community managers are spending a lot of time on platforms, and if they can have tools to save sometimes, it's great, especially on the weekend. Second reason is maybe because they will save money, because as you said, it can be very fast to create a new application or new stuff for social media platforms. But then, and this is one tricky question, kind of, but how can a brand or an agency choose the right management platform for them? What are the key things that they should look at? Because you are in Paris and you guys are coming also, so they might be seeing you at a business meeting very soon. What would you say?
I think it's very important to consider how much of your marketing you can accomplish with a strategic partner. For example, social media to date has very much been siloed off, and it's kind of like, this interesting red-headed stepchild where there's your traditional marketing team, and they do digital, they do traditional, they do search, they do display, they'll do videos, and then there's this other team that does social. And that's me. I'm that other team, so I'm representing that team there. But they all, at this point in time, they all have to work together. So you need to look for a partner that unifies this entire marketing suite so that everything that you do, digital, search, display, video, mobile, can work together under one partner, one key partnership, so that you have all of the smartest people in the room actually working together. I think that's key. And of course, this is a biased statement because Google does things like that, including Wildfire.
I think that one thing that people always need to start with is, what is my business and what are my business objectives? And it's important to start there because the platform you select has a lot to do with that. If your objective is enabling your employees to engage in at scale, then you need to start thinking about, how do I do that safely? How do I have the infrastructure for that? And if your objective is just to have a single Facebook page in order to just highlight your brand and do some campaigns, there's very different kinds of software. So it's very important to start with an engagement conversation with any potential partner is, what do I want to accomplish? Because social media, although it may be new, it should be measurable according to business objectives. We don't get to throw out the rules say it's social, it's special, I don't care if it makes any money. It should make money.
For sure.
I want to reflect on the first part of your question, and that is that here in France, there's a situation where agencies are managing perhaps a lot of the social for their clients.
Sure.
I think we saw that a few years ago in the States, and there's been an evolution actually away from that, where more of that responsibility has come in-house. And that's not to disparage agencies. I was president of an agency myself, and I know the value they can bring. But I think as companies get more sophisticated and diversify the number of people who can participate in social media within their enterprise, they need to bring that internally because the expertise lies across the entire enterprise. So as you think about social media, one of my favorite metaphors for it is the blind men and the elephant, which is kind of a worldwide story told through the ages of 6 blind men led into a room, asked to explain what's in the room with them, and they start touching and feeling, and one man says, oh, this is a tree because it's anchored to the ground, another says a house, another says a sword because it's hard and sharp, and another says, no, it's a snake. And of course, they're all touching different parts of the elephant. Well, that's what social media is. There's a big piece of it that's customer service. And it has to be routed quickly because time is of the essence. There's another piece that we talk about often, which is the marketing piece. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's the smallest piece of the puzzle because if you're not doing the other things right, if you're not routing those customer service inquiries, you're creating problems for yourself and it dampens your amplification. So I think the biggest thing that a platform, that a social media management system can give you is empowerment within the enterprise so that you can route things from a centralized point of view that one person understands where it's going and understands that it's being followed up on regardless of if it's sales or marketing or customer service because it is that elephant. It's all of these different things and that's very different than anything we've dealt with in marketing before. It touches the entire enterprise and so I completely agree. It's got to be integrated with your marketing goals and objectives, but there's this other piece that's very disruptive to the way that we're organized currently in our marketing departments. And I don't think a lot of companies have shifted the way they're organized to handle that piece of it. Technology can only do so much.
I totally agree. And just to move to another question and to talk about what you were saying about ROI, I totally believe that because there's a lot of people saying, don't look after the ROI in social media, there's none. I really don't buy that because if there's no ROI, why would you invest money into that? Well, that's completely stupid.
Beware of the person who says that.
That's totally stupid to think that. There's a ROI. I usually compare and asking people, do you try to get a direct financial ROI when you meet someone? Well, usually the answer is no, because if you try, you might have some problems. But you all know what's the value of your book address. So definitely there is an ROI, but as you said, there are a lot of analytics. So I just wanted to understand what analytics you are providing for brands, and especially, for example, as tools as Twitter, for example, where not all brands can access the Twitter analytics. Most of them don't even know that it does exist, in fact. So what kind of analytics can you bring, and how can it help brands to better manage their presence? Amy?
Sure.
Amy and then Maya. Sorry.
So I'll give you an example of a typical customer. So we typically have 2,000 salespeople who are out doing what salespeople do, which is sometimes good, sometimes not, on various platforms. Then you have marketing that has their own pages and a legal team. So the analytics that we provide have to do with data. Which customers interfaced with salespeople, which revenue was created, which pieces of content are more effective in France but not so effective in Belgium, even though the content may be in French in both places. Which piece of content are more people posting? So it has a lot to do with the sorts of metrics that enable you to improve, because marketers always want to get better, but also to measure the results. So you want to do those things constantly. So the analytics that we provide are very much sort of enterprise-level analytics, and we integrate in with business intelligence software and SAP and things like that too.
Right. I think one way to explain is to give an example. So very recently, an article was published in Information Age about Thomas Cook. Fairly close to home, one of UK's biggest tourism companies, travel brands. And Thomas Cook has been engaged in social media for a long time. And for them, of course, the tourism, the travel industry, they are very keen on attracting new customers and remaining really high in terms of brand awareness, right? Because instead of going and booking your own trip, they want you to have Thomas Cook in mind so that when you think vacation, business trip, some sort of travel, you want them to think Thomas Cook. And they've been using Facebook extensively to engage with their customers, create conversations, and they actually launched a campaign on Facebook. And it was for one of their major anniversaries. They were asking their Thomas Cook community to share a photo of them somehow displaying their Thomas Cook spirit. And it was just, very interesting marketing because these people were showing off their spirit faces, but that in and of itself is like your traditional social media campaign. You would expect something kitschy, something fun, but they tacked on the measurement, the analytics piece, measured visits to their website, attached unique referral IDs to every single transaction that was happening, and found that within the 4 weeks following that Facebook campaign, they saw a 20% increase in website traffic week over week, just following the campaign, following the specific users that interacted with it. And so they talked about that to Information Age, which was pretty neat for us because they used Wildfire to do all that. So analytics is really important. You want to be able to track these users. You want to know who they are that interact with you. So they come and they engage with your applications. They give you permission to know their name, to know, some details about their profile, whatever is publicly available. And you should be able to use that information to track ROI. You should be able to track second-level attribution, maybe not from that first visit, but when they return. And you should be able to kind of gauge your success by using analytics in this way to measure how you're doing, to measure who's coming back for more, to measure if there is growth, and ideally there is.
Jeffrey, sorry.
So I'll tackle it maybe from anticipating one of the other questions, and that is getting down to the very granular level, and that is the social CRM integrations that you now see. Because if it is imperative, you've got that sales force and they need to understand all of the different interactions. You've got to have that push out to be it Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So that's one of the pieces that we've focused on so that that individual rep can see the conversation string. It may not be traditional aggregate analytics, but to that sales rep, they want to understand all of the communications that have happened with a very critical individual or a critical brand so that they're up to speed the next conversation that they have. So the analytics, I think you can cut a number of different ways. I think the market itself is trying to determine what is relevant at that high level because there's an emotion to social media. So the classic quote of half your advertising being wasted, and you don't know which half. I think in social media, we have to embrace the fact that half of our investment is going to be, to a degree, on gut feel or risk, but there's this other piece that we should be able to measure or tie back. So for instance, you can have a Facebook page, that's wonderful, have great interaction on Facebook, but now they're shrinking the visibility of your posts. So one of the ways you can create value out of Facebook is, well, what if you tie that back and are trying to drive email subscriptions or off Facebook engagement? And now you're getting value by incentivizing the email opt-in for the ability to communicate with that person directly on a cadence that you set. You're building on your own land instead of somebody else's. And I think you're seeing more of that hybridization as brands realize we can't put all our eggs in one basket. We need to diversify, and we need to also gravitate to some of the channels that we can control a little bit more specifically. So we have urgent messaging. We're not just dependent on those folks who will amplify. We actually are going to be able to send messages directly to folks. And so that is an interesting evolution piece, I think, that's happening.
I would caution, though, that is that often people who are engaging in social media want to stay in social media in order to, that's the place they've chosen to interact and that's their preferred channel. And so that's a natural instinct of a marketer is to take them into their world. And one of the things that marketers and salespeople and everybody needs to figure out is how to make it more of permission-based
absolutely.
content, permission-based versus email. Every social media does not mean abandoning the things that currently work for you. It means another way to engage. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that most people start with is they go social media. I can advertise the heck. I can make this media because social, engaging and having conversations over time is harder. But that's where the money is. Because your customers are raising their hand, they're liking your page, they're saying you have brand equity. My goodness, a customer is saying, I want to engage with you, engage with them. It's very hard because we're used to one ad or once a month, as Maya said. This is harder, but there's a lot of money to be made here. And the platforms will help you do this.
Right, and to that effect, I was just going to add, Amy mentioned a really great point, and it's that to date, social media can sometimes seem a little bit spammy, right? You have a brand and it wants to blanket this entire audience on these social networks with one message. And that one message might not be relevant at all to half of the room, right? For example, at the most basic level, I can split this room into males and females, right? And it's plausible that depending on the type of brand that I am, I might have very different messaging to share with females in the room than I would to share with males, messaging that might engage you better, right? And so as you look forward to the evolution of the social media industry, which I'm very much looking forward to, especially as we grow with Google, you can look forward to using tools, using the features within each social network that enable you to understand users better and use the fact that for the first time ever, these people, these communities of users are telling you exactly who they are. They're giving you permission to see, I am a female, I'm from the United States, I'm from California, I really love dogs, and I also love the Washington Redskins. It's a football team in the United States. Football, American football, I must clarify. And so giving you permission to know that about me means that you as a brand should be able to use this. That way next time you have a promotion or campaign that somehow involves dogs, or maybe you're a dog brand, you can reach me because you know that I like that and I will be more receptive to it and I will be more engaged versus the current model, which is becoming more dated as we go along, which is one message, all people.
So two things on that. I think we're hitting on really important points. Number one, each of us has said something that I think you can distill down to the fact that, and this is something that our research focuses on, we now earn and own audiences in a much different way in marketing. And social media has brought light to that. Email kind of was the first channel, but each of them have nuanced differences in how we have to communicate. And unless we're educating executives at the brand level that these audiences are assets, then we will constantly get pressure to exploit them as if it's mass media and we're doing one message to everyone. So email's been around commercially for 15, 20 years. The vast majority of marketers still do one message to everybody. And they do that because there's a high degree of churn of the folks who are working in the, working on the front lines. There's not a lot of long-term expertise within brands because somebody gets promoted here and goes here and goes here. And so until we embrace audiences as assets and begin to invest in the people who are touching email, social, the audiences, because if you think about that, at the end of the day, you walk away from Facebook or email or Twitter, and what do you have? We say we don't count followers and fans and everything, but you have an audience. And if you do things wrong, you're going to lose that audience. And it's a competitive differentiator to have more people there and engaged and listening. If we can create value in that, we might be able then to get to the point where the lessons of email and personalization and the lessons of social and personalization come together. And now we've got teams working together, and the great idea over here gets communicated to this team and we can go execute it. And that's the mess we're in right now. And I say mess in a completely positive, beautiful way, because it's unlike anything marketing's ever seen. We're living through it and writing the rules right now. And it's only by going through it and seeing these platforms evolve that we'll get to solutions that'll make it easier.
Totally agree. And just to rebound, because the time is going on, and there's a lot of questions, a lot of discussion that would be amazingly interesting. But something that you talked about, both of you, is that platforms are getting together at some point. We talked a lot in digital. We talk a lot about friction and frictionless. How you take off friction. One of the friction for brands is having different management platforms, having a CRM platforms, having a social management platforms. How do you think you see things moving? I know that you joined Google since a few months, and you talked about that. How you see that things moving?
I think it's really important that, as much as possible, you keep your options open in terms of integrations. So you might be on a certain CRM platform. Your brand might be on a different CRM platform. You might be a multinational company that actually uses different CRM platforms region by region. So it's incredibly important that when you choose your partners, you choose a partner that you know will be flexible, extensible, and will have those open integrations for as many other platforms as possible, so that you can take your data with you. You will always own it, take it, and use it insofar as it can go. To that extent, Wildfire, we have been platform agnostic. We serve brands on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And even though we were acquired by Google, we will remain platform agnostic. That is the plan. Very similar to DoubleClick, which is the market-dominant display ads provider, and remains platform agnostic and serves advertising on competing search engines. So it has been incredibly successful and remained agnostic, and that is the plan for our company as well.
Amy?
Well, it's a natural trend in disruptive technology that the very first wave of applications are what later become features. Most companies are looking to reduce the number of applications that they use versus increase. So the natural trend in any disruptive industry is consolidation, and we're definitely seeing that. Our typical licenses are, 10,000 licenses at a company, and a lot of the smaller applications just sort of get rolled into the functionality of HearSay Social or Google. It's a natural strategy because companies want to work with fewer vendors. That doesn't mean, though, that they want fewer features. They don't necessarily just want to sign MSAs and contracts with 20 companies. So it's a natural tension in the market. But if they consolidate too soon, to Maya's point, they may not allow for innovation. So long as you work with partners who are extensible, who are able to grow with change and understand that they don't come in and say, only work with us, I think you'll be fine.
So agree with what was said before. At Exacttarget, our umbrella platform, if you will, is our interactive marketing hub. And the vision there is that integrated suite. But knowing that customers exist at different places, brands exist at different places, people are buying perhaps one or two components. They might buy email, they might buy a social piece, they might buy mobile, they might buy landing pages. And until the integration happens internally within the teams, it's very difficult for the platforms to integrate. The technology isn't going to force the integration. It's going to be the organizations themselves taking a look at where are their efficiencies, where do they have cost structures that maybe they can eliminate. They can push the vendors to give them additional functionality, and then obviously have the open integration with new solutions that come out. So our approach to that is social gears. So the ability to integrate third-party new systems in that offer additional value over and above what we may have on the existing platform. And again, later, who knows, that could be an acquisition piece, that could just be a sustained partnership. But that vision, I think, is the right one, probably for all of us here, because you don't know, is there another Pinterest around the corner? Is there something else? Yeah. And the other big thing I think we've got to look at here is, are all of these social channels for every brand? And I think the answer is no. And brands are going to start figuring out, you know what? I don't want to put my money there. I might get some value. I'll listen to it. If there's a problem, I'll direct it to customer service. but I'm going to move my dollars here because I get either greater value both from an advertising and an engagement standpoint, or because it works better with my brand. And as you see Facebook and Twitter pulling themselves apart, Instagram now not sharing photos on Twitter, you see these things start to happen, brands are going to start waking up to the fact that they're going to have some of those decisions in the years to come.
And for example, the best example, sorry, is maybe the forums, which are, from my point of view, very important and are not so much addressed by brands today, but they are important for customer service, for example. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, and you're seeing a renaissance too of brands saying, wait a second, maybe we should be building our own communities as well. They went away from that because everybody was, hey, I like you, let's go be a fan. And now they're coming back and realizing, wait a second, maybe we need to own these core audiences a little bit more. So.
And talking about fragmentation, there's also mobile. I mean, we cannot ignore the mobile. Mobile in two ways. I think mobile as a tool for community manager to handle the platforms, but also mobile as a social media tools. How do you integrate mobile today in your platform?
Mobile is an incredibly strong focus at Wildfire and for Google. Google already is the leader in mobile display ads, and they absolutely recognize the importance. I think it's 2013 that's supposed to be the year that mobile internet usage will actually surpass. It will finally go like this with desktop internet usage. So that's when you know, like, if you are not there, you are absolutely behind. So when you're putting together your websites, your marketing campaigns, your social campaigns, you need to consider every possible way that a consumer is going to be looking at it, which means millions at this point of form factors, right? It might be 7 inches, it might be 5 inches, it might be 13 inches, and it might be, you know, full size. And the answer to that is really a philosophy in the industry that's called responsive design. So you should be building your software, architecting it so that it's responsive no matter what the form factor is. So that is a very key requirement that you should consider when you're thinking about how to evaluate vendors, how to evaluate solutions for your company.
Amy.
So mobile and social aren't actually two different trends. They're one of the large drivers of social media adoption has been the adoption of smartphones. And the ability to access the internet has driven people who primary access to Facebook is via mobile phone, primary access to Twitter via mobile phone. So a lot of the social media platforms have been enhanced by mobile and driven by mobile adoption. So you cannot have a social strategy without a mobile strategy. It's just, they are inextricable, is what I would say. So think of it that way. Any vendor you work with needs to be able to help you think of it that way. Provide a different experience for your actual employees when they're out on the road so that they can actually have a mobile experience of their own when they're logging into the social platform itself, not just the consumers. But absolutely, mobile and social are an inextricable trend.
Thanks. Jeffrey?
I will give you the funniest stat that proves that point, and I just read it this morning. In the US, 18 to 24-year-olds, 35% of them have used social media while in the restroom, in the bathroom. So that is a mobile social trend that I'm not sure we want to see
continue. Hope it's not a desktop.
Yes, let's hope it's not desktop. But absolutely, I mean, clearly marketers are increasingly mobile. They're going to want app-based management solutions as well. Certainly, you have to think about how does the social experience render in the device. You know, Facebook tabs are not a thing of beauty in most mobile devices, so how are you going to present that form function in that device? And again, I think this is one of those things that you'll see brands experimenting a lot because, you know, to your point, Maya, you've got so many different form factors. Responsive design can do, to a certain degree, can help you, but you're going to have to pick what are your most important audiences. And you can only do that by, if you're a big enough brand, you should be surveying your audience. Understand, are they a tablet audience or are they a smartphone audience? Because if they are largely consuming you on a smartphone, put your development dollars there and your engagement in that environment and during the time of day that they use that device. If they're a tablet user, that tends to be more of an evening device, at least in the States. I haven't seen the data here. You might know better than I. But you're seeing the devices themselves tell you a little bit about what's important to that ultimate consumer.
And just to talk about what you were saying, in India, I think it's already done. I mean, there are more people using internet on mobile than on desktop, and the trend is for sure in these countries like China, India, all these countries. It's a new audience also to acquire. So we have like very few minutes left. As there's a lot of very interesting things that have been said, I would like you to give your like maybe 3 key points that people should remember about this panel. Maya?
All right, I will begin. I think if I could have you take away one message with you today, it's that social is not meant to be in a silo by itself. It belongs with the rest of your marketing functions. It belongs with your advertising team that does display, that does search, that does mobile, that does video, and they all need to work in tandem so that you can get the most out of your marketing dollars for your brand across the world in every language and every time zone.
Amy?
The one key takeaway I'd like people to remember is that engagement is a forum that social does very well at. And it's unique in that you don't have to have the customer come into your store. They're actually coming to you and engaging with you. So if you keep engagement first and foremost as you're designing your programs, you will have the ROI that you're looking for. Whichever industry you're in, keeping engagement in mind, I would say is the most important thing. The other thing I would say is it is much easier to avoid the social part of social, but don't do it. Because the real benefit, the real impact to your company will be from sticking to the social part of social. Your agency may say, please spend some ad money, we'll get lots of likes, all that. But ask them, how will I have that conversation after? What will happen after?
Exactly, yeah.
And then you will get a good program.
Thanks. Jeffrey?
And I'll just add one point, and that would be understand that you're building audiences for the long term, that these are not burn and churn type of resources. These are literally assets with monetary value, and if you engage them properly, they will grow organically. And by doing that through a social media management platform, you have a better visibility into not only how are they engaging with you, but also how can you route them in appropriate fashion so they get served or questions answered or what have you. I think that audience piece is something that hopefully will drive more understanding of up the food chain within our organizations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have to leave now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for this conversation. So it's now time to go and have something to eat. You have to come back at 2. We have just 1 hour more with this social business track, and 4 Q&As or presentation. 2, I'm sure you will love. 1 with the head of mobilization for Greenpeace. I'm sure you've heard about like a very recent campaign they made against retail and fashion brand. So we'll hear about this from Greenpeace, and the head of community for Lego. That will be very interesting, and we will also have a Q&A about digital promotion and the #1 buzz agency in France that will explain us some key elements in what they're doing. Thank you very much, and we'll be back at 2 p.m. Thank you.